All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another long-winded video with me, Umber Rays. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. And today we're going to be taking a look at Irvine, who I am not calling Vincent at the beginning of this video. I don't know why I get those two confused. I like Vincent from Final Fantasy VII. I don't like Irvine from Final Fantasy VIII. No, seriously. I don't like Irvine from Final Fantasy VIII. He's one of my least favorite characters from that game. But we're going to give him a fair shake because, as it turns out, Irvine is just a generally really strong character. And that's great news because after people have been disappointed with Squall, it's kind of nice that FF8 did get, love because Renoa is fantastic. Squall, not so much. And then last but not least, Irvine, actually pretty fantastic. So it just works out to be at least a little bit good. And so taking a look here, we can kind of see Irvine's stats if we were to compare versus a 140 Elia, which is a fair comparison here. I think that overall, you can see that they're pretty comparable. And again, remember, one's a 100 cost and one's a 90 cost. So kind of we saw discount Bellis this event, and now we're seeing discount Irvine. But don't let that fool you. These are newer and updated units, and I think generally pretty cool. All right, so Irvine, these are essentially the kind of stats you can get with this build, with this VC, these VCs. If I was a little bit more lucky recently, I would actually have the new gun-based VCs fully maxed. So we're just going to go with this on today's testing, basically on the idea that a pure gunner-based group is potentially just really good with Irvine. And when we're talking about Irvine, we kind of also need to talk about all the other stuff. So first off, his VC. First off, sporting awesome art, 60 cost, 312 HP, 16 AP, 138 attack, 40 dexterity is pretty good. Unit effect, missile attack resistance penetration of 10 and single target resistance of 10. Required AP 60%, increased attack of 50%, critical rate of 20. Essentially the gunner's dream VC. I mean, it could be better if it had just human killer on it, but this VC is basically mandatory if you ever want to run guns again. And great news, it also works with bows. So yeah, this is the quintessential gunner VC for a good long while, and it sports awesome artwork, so no complaints whatsoever. Next up, Irvine's gun, which only has two versions, assault and aim, probably generally pretty good. Aim with 182, critical rate of 15, perform the following effects upon hit, 20% attack when performing a critical hit, and there is a negative sign here, so I'm assuming it's just an attack decrease for the enemy, while also generally increasing its missile attack by 15. This gun's good with multiple different jobs, not just him, so that's great news. There's a squirrel running around my apartment. Don't worry about it. You can't hear it, but I assure you it's there. I'm getting distracted. All right, so the gun is essentially good for him and good for some other units. That's the big deal. Now, let's talk about the unit. 90 cost, limited time only, dark UR, 3 move, 1 jump. Hunter and Viking are his sub jobs. His main job is lonely or beautiful sniper. Can't remember what it is, but fine. TMR, clothing, 367 HP, 8 defense, 4 spirit, 8 accuracy with TMR skill, increase missile attack by 30 for 3 turns for allies. Decreased chance of being targeted by 6. Much like Souls was just an insanely good VC, this is an insanely good VC specifically for gunners, but you're getting a lot of value out of it because it does have 2 uses. Looking at master ability, attack 10%, AP consumption down by 15, dream ability, missile attack resistance penetration by 15, AoE resistance 15. So a little bit of survivability, a little bit of attack power, but generally pretty focused to what he's going. Now, we kind of saw his resistances, nothing overly special here, but he is generally strong against strike, slash, and shooting, which is probably going to be his major weaknesses. And magic, neutral, so I think overall, this is pretty fair set. And of course, 50% charm resistance. Cool. Cool. Nice flavor there. All right, looking at next up, we'll just move into here. And I guess we'll start with support and counter, because that seems to be what I'm doing. So here, defense penetration by 40, range by 1, agility by 12%, everything that you would essentially want. Reduces damage taken by 50% one time per self, while also increasing attack by 24%. Now, while there are a bunch of different skills that he has in here, I think you're always going to be running range unless you're trying to generate AP. And as for this one, reducing damage taken 50% every time, once guaranteed. And nice. It's a little bit of Yuffie just on a support skill without the need to cast it, which means it's an incredibly reliable. Cool. Counter ability tends to counter slash and strike damage with a 50% chance of happening, damage of 121. Also interesting, Kemi debuff is a straight line, is a preemptive counter, meaning that it will attack first. There's also a chance to decrease dark and missile resistance. So you have a couple of abilities here that are generally pretty good for this character. Limit Burst is an increased defense penetration by 30 for 3 turns for self, while dealing 200% mod in a straight line. It's okay. It's nothing super awesome, but I think it is pretty good. Next up, let's take a look. So Viking does have an attack increase and defense penetration, which could be more reliable than his Limit Burst. Also can increase his own bravery, and a critical chance and slash attack resistance penetration by 40. Mostly, I think Viking, you're going to be running for the buff and nothing else. As for Hunter, Hunter does have an agility and attack increase, which is pretty good. Tends to inflict Berserk, which is kind of new for Dark. Defense penetration by 50 and missile resistance penetration by 50 for that cast, which, whatever. Increase accuracy, which could be really important for dealing with some of the sure hit evade characters. And last but not least, a damager for increased if there is haste, reserve, or something. So yeah, I would say that generally I think that Hunter does bring a good amount of stuff to the table, potentially dealing with other units that could be problematic, but seems pretty good here for an increase. What you are giving up is sleep and poison, which isn't super impressive. And here we have a 165 with decreasing healing power. I think it's totally fair to skip this for the Hunter abilities, but this one, like, it's interesting. This does have higher height increased range, and it does also can be range buff. So maybe pretty good, but kind of weird that there's just a fire ability randomly in here. Maybe it was meant to be synergistic with Soul, since he also has a poison ability. Weird. Moving on. Let's talk about his main kit. So first one, it's pretty cool that his major ability is just to select 2 targets ability, which are my favorite abilities right now. Sort of 2 abilities in one. No. Not gonna make. Anyway, AoE resistance of 15 and range increase. So basically this guy has access to really high amounts of range. 200% damage while also restoring CT for himself on a multi-hitter. That interestingly gets upgraded to remove, protect, and shell, potentially improving either physical or magical offensive capabilities for other units as well as himself. Increasing attack and agility. When a friendly unit is within range, cast a secondary hit. So you can stack these kind of things. And ends up being pretty good. Range I mean, this is essentially Bart's ability, but for range. So if you can combine this with other range units, pretty nice. Decrease missile target resistance by 30%. This is why I think he is generally more better of a gunner type unit than a dark unit, although he does have dark. And his last two abilities, decrease single target resistance by 20, 165 mod, piercing, and absorb 30% of the damage done. Now, I don't expect him to be the most survivable character because he is a 90 cost character in a 100 cost world, but this guy is overall just a really solid kit that I think most people who are just ranged enthusiasts will be generally happy, since there are enough job VCs, especially with his VC, to make a good amount of synergy. So let's get in here. We're going to separate our units. We've got the ranged girls. Sorry, Irvine's a guy, but he's just so pretty. All right, now let's jump up here. Run a few abilities. We also want our tank within a good line of sight. That fire resistance isn't going to help us here, unfortunately. As you can see, Irvine pretty darn fast, and without even casting any of the abilities, we can kind of see the type of damage that he can do against his allies, since he is a gunner, so right in the range there. So here we can see some of the damage we're doing against this. Not great, but we haven't run any power up yet, and potentially doing AoEs against strong non-AoE characters. So taking a look here, yeah, pretty good resistances against AoE and single target. Not much chance of poison here. Some chance of poison here. A little bit of both. Overall, damage isn't too incredible here, but we do have a wide range of abilities that can be increased with range. So let's take a look and check out this. So we have our secondary ability. This one is the one that allows us to get secondary hit and increase attack power for other units. So we are going to be running that, and we're going to be casting that on Alaya because we want to get that ability working. And just for comparison, we do have Barrett here, seeing the type of damage that he can do. They all laughed when I built Barrett, but we're gonna get there. All right, now running over into Alaya, you can see that she is already benefiting from the attack boost, which is generally pretty nice, and we're getting pretty good amounts of DPS, which is one of the things I am the most interested in if I was to get Irvine. It's just the idea of him improving other gunners. He is capable of dealing damage, but I think just with the amount of resistances he can potentially remove is a good way of supporting these units. Go in here, check out all of that. Pretty good. Something happened. Run a few other abilities. Now we can see the limit burst. It is more damage. It is capable of dealing more damage, but it's not dealing a metric truckload. Yep. Yep. Clean. Wipers. joys of that's staying in, by the way. That I'm not editing that out of this video. All right, so getting back to it, let's we are going to be using this one right here. As you can see, not dealing a terribly high amount of damage, but that is okay. Not necessarily are we looking here to do the most amount of damage, so much as we are going to be potentially powering up our other units. And again, trying to get through tanks, trying to get through other things, running as much damage as we can through our other units. I think that it's an interesting combination. I do want to see a little bit more of it and what specifically that team, whether it still needs a tank or not. I haven't had as much time to consider about how much, but I think it is pretty cool. And there's that secondary hit, dealing about 800 points of damage. I think if we were running, if we've seen this before with Bart's, that the more human killer you do stack ends up compiling, so that should be the same here. But yeah, I do really like this character. I think that he, in terms of a gunner, what he's bringing to potentially like multi-gunner parties, could bring range back into being more, how do I say this, more common than what it is currently. It feels like a lot of range is currently gone on JP, and it would be really good to see it come back. All right, so let's just get out of here, try that. And last but not least, I'm gonna sum up just a few other thoughts about this character. I do think that he is more of a PvP character than a PvE character. Not terribly much. Like, I don't think it's a really bad thing if you use this character for farming or whatnot, since he does have range. But in terms of, like, if you were to compare against Soul, Soul has just more AoE, more capabilities. So if you were like a new player, I would really recommend Soul as your primary one. Vincent is kind of more of a character, I think, that is for long-term players especially who are looking to really power up their range group. Whether or not it will be super viable with Dark is kind of dubious to me. Dark is already such a good team, and you look at a lot of what Irvine, I was going to say Vincent, but I didn't, is bringing to the table, which is single target, resistance removal, which can be useful, missile resistance, which is very specifically for a missile-based team, secondary attacks, which can just be generally good and allow Dark to deal with some stuff, such as Re-Raise and Immortal Spirit, and removing a Protect and Shell is also something that is pretty valuable. So he brings enough that he definitely could be thrown into a successful Dark team. But I do think that overall his kit kind of just screams more to me. But only time will tell, and we'll update you with that in the future. So I don't know, we're gonna end this video the same way that we ended the previous one, going over here, taking a scroll all the way down Irving's banner and showing off that limit, if I didn't, because this video has gone on for a while and there's been a few distractions. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're interested in this character, and it eases a little bit of the pain that is Squall. Thanks so much for watching.